Yeah, it's post-punk style, very in the moment. One of the key things with it, we were sitting in the studio, we do a community thing together. We're in the
Mm,
studio we built for the community thing, and we made a record there. We've got another album on the way. Those
yeah,
records come out. It's called Tuned In, and that was
yeah,
coming out on one album's already out on Cherry Red Record, and two or three
yeah,
singles already came
yeah.
out, and we're working on the next one. And we'd sort of finished a couple of things with that. We were just finishing up. We had a bit of dead time, and we had drummers around. So
Mm,
rather than, so we had drummers there, and it was like, oh, there's drummers there. One of them was my son, actually. He's a good player. He's in a duo with my other son, my younger son, Charlie. He's my
yeah,
older son, John. Younger son, Charlie. They've got a thing called Tianqi. And he'd
mm,
been down, he'd played on some stuff for me anyway in London that week. He was around and, was able to do some stuff. But there, on the other occasion, there was an Italian guy that comes to the community thing that
mm.
was a PhD student in London and was doing a kind of music related thing. And I just thought he's a student who played a bit of music part time for fun. And so he was around, and there's dudes like you play drums, don't you? And I thought, yes,
Mm.
boy, I've seen him play. He's unspectacular, solid drummer. Doesn't
Yeah,
go around. That's great. I like that.
yeah,
Straight to it, like me, unspectacular. Me too. So
mm,
let's get on with it. And I did a couple of things, and then went into a 7/4 thing, quite thinking this would probably fall down. And he stayed with it, and I realised he was a very good player. I
mm,
hadn't. I just had made a judgment, not a terrible, just a judgment of the guy, and got it a bit
mm,
wrong. He was a very good player. Turned
mm.
out he comes from a town 50 miles north of Milan, and he's the only drummer in that town. And his job is playing drums with 8 or 9 different groups
Wow, blimey.
of variants. So he knows his shit. Very modest,
Yeah,
humble guy. And so just having someone like that around, actually, we did a thing. I had some lyrics anyway that I've been working on, some sort of ideas, dystopian kind of punk stuff, and that was
mm,
Terminal the End. And
mm,
my one a very good mate of mine who I've seen today, his son was there doing like an internship, a job work experience thing that night. I don't really believe in internships actually. I think give people apprenticeships and pay them, but whatever,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
He was
yeah,
there, kind of getting a bit of work, hanging out, getting a bit of work experience. He was very good as well, miking stuff up and this, that, and the other. So it was a high
mm,
energy in the moment. John didn't expect us to be doing that, John Klein, but John
mm.
just kind of goes with it. It was lovely, and so that was probably the beginning of it. We suddenly had a couple of tracks down that day that were
Mm.
really had something, and there was a spontaneous freshness and a little bit of anger in there and fun sense of devilment in there. I
Yeah.
end that track saying, yeah, fuck off. Like all that. It's all a bit of fun. And then same thing happened with a Japanese girl, quite a girl that comes down. She's a pattern cutter, but she's a really solid drummer. And
Mm,
she's not like most Japanese people, very sort of meek and, sort of very,
mm,
very polite. She's quite feisty, this girl, she's
mm,
quite cheeky and she's funny. And she
mm.
came and just same thing, just played just really simple, stayed really determined to stay with it. And we did, that was it. I think she was I think she did Make It Stop. I think she was on that. And
Yeah.
back look people looking at their phones. So she did a couple of tracks, really good. And my son John, he was on Fading and Endless Sky,
Mm.
does that fast. So just in the thing, it was kind of like the 70s that you haven't got a drum machine, or
Yeah, yeah.
you're not haven't got like you normally use these AI kind of drums now. No one can tell they're not a real drummer, but they're not a
Yeah.
real drummer. So you've actually got like a little bit of a band vibe. You're in the moment to make something. You've got a drummer, a bass player, vocalist, haha, and guitarist, and you're in like a kind of modern equivalent of a demo studio kind of vibe, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just in the moment, and the lyrics, it's like let's write something about the time, well, it's a crazy feisty time, it's
Mm,
dysfunctional,
mm.
there's nationalism, there's wokeism, I'm having a pop at all of it really and having
Mm.
fun with it. Obviously we all know as we were just discussing, politicians will let you down of
Yeah, yeah.
always, and they never fail. You've got to think the sort of politicians class now, and probably I read the Republic by Plato. probably at some point you get a point where lawyers and what do they call those sophists? Was it the speakers, the people that speak
Or,
really well? I forget
or
what
a
they
oratorist,
orator, but there's a name.
orators. Oh,
No, there's another name. Is it sophist or something? It's sophist when you're just really good at empty words. You know,
okay,
I
right.
can't remember. I can't remember it's a great word for people that are just kind of bullshitters in a way. Kind of,
Yeah.
they can come and talk a good fight. Nigel Farage,
Oh,
maybe,
there's a, yes, yeah. That
you
would be
know,
the modern definition,
who's, a,
wouldn't it?
who's of
Yeah,
course a
yeah,
disruptor. You give him real power and real responsibility, and he'll probably crumble. And by the
yeah,
way, don't worry, I'm not going to go into a woke tirade. I can't stand a woke mob either. You know, and so it just the question of catching the zeitgeist, which was fun. What an obvious thing to write about when I go on the tube home from Wimbledon, from tuned in.
mm,
When I go around town, every
mm,
fucker's on their phone. Everybody's
yeah,
just like literally,
yeah,
so you're on the phone, especially when it's hot. It's kind of reasonably full, but not absolutely crowded. So all those side seats are taken, and you think,
yeah,
fucking hell, I'm the only person not looking at a
yeah.
phone. I've seen a
I know.
few more people just starting to read books now. I think books are apparently coming back. Book sales have
Mm,
not really wavered as much as you might think, and there's still one or two people with a book.
yeah, yeah,
Although I hasten to add, if you can read a book on a device and it does work, if you carry, it's awkward carrying books. Where do you pull it? You know,
yeah. I know.
you
I
know
know what
what
you
I mean.
mean.
Especially in summer
Yeah,
when you ain't got many pockets. So I do
yeah,
get that. But
yeah.
anyway, so that's the story of the record. It
I
is
can
what it
get.
is. You know.
It's funny like with books because I was reading the like poetry books like sales of poetry books have really gone up in the kind of 18 to 35 age bracket.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting statistic. And also, a mate of mine was telling me that his son, who is early 20s, a lot of the teenage early 20s mob are ditching smartphones. Now,
Yes.
that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like news, is like, well, really? That's kind of good news.
Yeah.
And I know there's been talk of a lot of people have stopped posting online because they
Mm,
realized it was a waste of fucking time because no
yeah, yeah.
one really cares, you
Yeah.
know? No
Yeah.
one really cares. And you still got that pecking order. So you can go on there and you can kind of maybe have access to a star, but you'll see yourself with, you know, it's a pecking, everyone only really cares about what they've got to say,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
you got some phony kind of relationships with Twitter or whatever with stuff you follow, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's all it is what it is.
It is nonsense, isn't it? Because I mean, I think like people. I mean, it's all sort of contributed to this. I don't know if it's like attention spans because like the thing with books is I find now I have to like my phone I have to leave it somewhere else like put it away.
Yes, yeah,
But
yeah.
also just like the amount of information that sort of comes into your brain these
Mm,
days is just unbelievable.
mm.
And it's hard to sift it all out, sift the shit out that you don't really need to
Well, you
listen
have
to.
to, you in Buddhism. There's a thing, as there is in a lot in all spiritual traditions, I suppose. In Buddhism is the one I really like because it
Mm,
really gets to it's very methodical and it gets very precise. And it says
mm,
to avoid
yeah.
idle gossip, and you have to watch it, and you have to watch it with mates where you fall into habitual tendencies of the same conversations round in fucking circles. How many times can you say to mates, why don't you get a project? Why don't you get a hobby? Why don't you get, that's the one I've been saying to people. Why don't you get a project? Get a project. That's a good word for it. Get a project.
Yeah.
How many times can you say to people that probably just will never will, you know,
Yeah.
because their habitual, their project is to go round in a circle.
Yeah.
So be cool. Leave it with that, but don't stop, to avoid the idle gossip is really good. And,
Yeah.
and hit the mat, do just 10 minutes meditation. Just
Yeah.
let it, and what you introduce, or even just sitting reasonably straight in a chair or lying down or something, even, and just
Mm,
introduce an element of spacious consciousness, just spaciousness. So the thoughts then, you're not caught in a mind stream, the problem with this stuff is it's like diving into a fast running river. That's your mind. You get carried
Mm,
away in,
it
you
does, yeah.
drown in the thoughts take you. You become the thoughts. There isn't any sense of an observer, you
Yeah.
know, an
Do you, do,
observer, and that's those thoughts. And when there's an observer of the thoughts, there's an objectivity there at least.
do you still find yourself sort of getting, have a tendency to get swept away with stuff and you have to kind of
Oh,
pull yourself back?
I think if anybody tells you they don't get that, there
Mm,
are some people that won't have that. That they've got into the thing of being very mindful in a calm way,
mm,
a nice balance of like having a string of a stringed instrument, not too
yeah.
slack, not too tense. But
Mm,
nearly everybody will get get carried away with it
mm,
at some point. But the thing is how quickly you realize, oh, I'm in the fast running torrent, and you come out. Like
yeah.
when you're in
Yeah.
a dream and you wake up, this is a dream. It's cool. I'm not
Mm,
really about to fall off the skyscraper or something.
mm,
It's a dream.
yeah.
So yeah, you will. The analogy that's always, and all this is the great thing about this age and this information technology. This is the good thing. If you are discerning, all the wisdom's out there on YouTube. There's a lot
Yeah.
of niche stuff. So all this stuff that was considered pretty esoteric Indian philosophy, Eastern philosophy, is now readily available all over YouTube. I think
Mm,
they call it non-dual nowadays. It used to
mm,
be quite manifested in something like transcendental meditation or whatever. But certainly, I
mm,
mean, Advaita was the sort of thing, and sort of Bhagavad Gita that all come to prop like with the Beatles time, I suppose, in the 60s and all that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Buddhism came in, which is a separate sort of thing, but all this stuff's there, and the analogy that a lot of those things, especially the Vita kind of people, Vedanta, it is the movies on the screen,
Mm,
and do you believe the movie when you're in at the cinema and you're totally invested in the exciting film?
mm,
You are in the film, so you're watching 28 years later.
mm.
Fucking hell, zombie!
Yeah.
Oh my! Oh, you're in the movie. But
Yeah. Yeah.
then, and you want to be that you actually want to be in a movie. You want your money's worth. But it's nice to
Mm,
know actually the analogy of life. There's life, and there's me observing it and
mm,
sitting 12 rows back from the screen. Although in
mm.
reality, I like to be one row back. I like to just have nothing in between me and the
Just
screen. That's another,
yeah.
most people don't like, that's another matter. Um, but further, there you are, 12 rows back, observing the screen. And there you are actually in the back row, observing the observer. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is supposed, that's, people would say that's spiritual realization, the awareness of awareness. So
Mm,
you're aware that you're aware. And when you become aware of being aware, there's a feeling of spaciousness, there's a feeling of calm presence and
mm,
the world going on, and not buying into it, not being triggered and
mm.
rolling with the tendency to roll in daft conversations about football on WhatsApp or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself? I mean, like as I've got older, and I'm 58. Well, actually, no, I'm 57. I'm 58 in a couple of weeks, and as I've got older, I found myself that like with conversations and friends as well. I mean, I have a bit of a weird relationship with friendships,
Mm.
because of stuff that happened when I was younger. Around
Yeah.
trust and
Yeah. Yeah.
loyalty
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like
Oh,
that.
I'm your man for this shit. Don't worry. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well. I mean, as it happened actually. So, like when I was a kid, I was like 7 or 8, about 8, I think, and I was born up in I lived in Chorley, Lancashire. Um,
I know Chorley.
yeah. So we had, we had, we,
Quite a tough little mob there with the local team. They're when
yeah.
they
Oh,
played Stockport County.
of course. Yeah.
There was quite a police presence there for that. That's
Yeah.
where a lot of the Bolton fans go and watch
That,
Chorley as well, don't they?
that's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
crack on.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
no. Yeah. I remember going to a match at Victory Park when I was young. The big match that they had was when they played Wimbledon in the FA Cup. I can't remember what round it was, but that was like the one thing
Yeah,
that I remember of like Chorley
yeah,
football.
yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
but yeah, when I was young, basically I was playing football out the back with my friends there's a school at the back of our house. I was playing on the field. And my mum shouted at me and said, it's tea time. You need to come in and have your tea. And I took my ball, and the other lads didn't like that. And I was like, I'm going to take my ball. I don't know why, but anyway, so
Oh,
one of my
quite right,
mates,
because it won't be
yeah,
respected. It will
I didn't
disappear or
think
get
it.
kicked over a fence.
Yeah, I
It's a
thought,
it's a reasonable thing to do. I'm sorry.
I so I by the time I sort of climbed over the fence and sort of got back in, one of them had gone round back to his house, told his mum that I'd told him to fuck off,
Mm.
and I didn't do. I was a nice little kid. And anyway, so I got back in, and then my mum says, "Your dad wants to see you." I'm like, "Right, okay." And I remember, I could picture it. I could picture the scene, like going
Mm.
up, and my dad telling me what had happened, and I was like, "No, that didn't happen." And he didn't believe me. He believed my mate's mum over me.
Mm.
So anyway, so that's stayed with me. And I have these little sort of things about, when people don't believe what I say, it fucking bugs me.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's it's weird how that sort of shit
No, I
stays
can
with
get
me.
that, and it's funny. There's something about the age 7, 8, 9, sort of around that age, seven, eight,
Mm,
nine, getting on to 10. Very, very sort of formative, and
yeah, very.
sometimes I
Yeah.
think the people say, "Give me the child of 7, I'll give it. Show me the boy of 7, I'll show you the man." And it's like, yeah, I'll get
Mm,
that, but it never stops the involvement. There's something about that particular stage that I mean, fucking hell, very difficult.
yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. By the time you're going into adolescence, you're already formed. You're starting to get fight in you. You're starting to get pushback,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that, so to speak. That anger is an energy
Mm,
things arising as
yeah.
when
Yeah.
you get into sort of adolescence and teenage. You're set. On your course for better and for worse. That's it.
Mm,
And you're now picking up other reference points with people and other influences. And there's a kind of desperation to break away. I had a very religious sort of background and all that.
yeah.
So, but there
That
was
was in Catholicism, wasn't it? That
yeah,
was
yeah,
your,
Roman
yeah.
Catholic, yeah. And
Yeah.
as I said in my book, as far as I know, there were no nonce priests in that parish, or that
Mm,
I stand to be corrected, but it was the nuns, actually, the Sisters of Mercy. Looking
yeah.
back, were the thing that, because they kind of run the primary school,
Mm,
their cruelty and stupidity, and
mm,
one or two of the lay teachers there was like, wow, you got double, you got that, and then you got your home life, and yeah,
mm,
not sort of great. Was a bright kid, and at that point was excelling somehow, but you
mm,
were kind of bag of nerves
yeah.
as well, and one thing and the other, and certainly at that time and place, your word wouldn't
Yeah.
count for fuck all, or what you
Yeah. Yeah.
wouldn't. That would count for fuck all. There wouldn't be a
Yeah.
thing of what's this kid about or anything,
Yeah.
or what's this kid, not at all. So, to be fair, I think grandparents are very important with this stuff.
Yeah.
I think in our
Yeah.
tribes operate people. Unfortunately for me, there was only one surviving grandparent of that who thought the world of me, but he was a drunkard
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was a real character, I mean, Chapman. But my old man's been a lighterman, so
Mm,
he wasn't any use. He was pissed all the time. He'd dance, sing, and he was pissed, and he'd give you a florin, a bounty bar, an orange sort of thing. He'd
did
give you that. He played the cones, but there was no. So I had an aunt over the road who really, her and her husband Ted, and my aunt Mary, she was one of my mum's older sisters. We used to try and kind of be a bit of an advocate, just kind of
mm.
protect me a bit.
Were they sort of like important for you in your childhood then?
Looking back, yeah, there was that feeling
Yeah.
that, more to look back and just think, oh, there was somebody there who had a go, and at one major point had really interceded very importantly, really, really
Mm,
saved the day for me,
yeah.
big time,
Yeah.
when there's been a big domestic at home and
Right.
this, that, and the other. So, and I've been nicked. and he come and managed in a way you couldn't do now, sort of straighten
Right.
it all out. And I was just a very young fella, you know. And so I look back at my cousins. I've got two cousins, Pat and Mari, from
Mm,
that, and they're lovely people. They're out embarking, and
mm,
whenever they see me, I said in the book they cry.
yeah.
And
Uh,
I said in the book, I have that effect on people, you know. They're like, oh no, not him. We
not him
thought you were
again.
coming, but they cry, and it's so sweet because they kind of really feel something to me, and I feel something for them. And
Yeah.
I always say to them, there's no need to cry. Everything turned out all right. And I'm not saying my thing was absolutely, you know, it was just sort of mad and out of control, really, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it mysterious, you know. Once I've said it, you can't just leave it at that. You know, my old man was 8th Army veteran. He was
Mm,
shell shocked. I think there was mental health issues there. He was a
yeah.
taciturn man, very difficult to deal with.
Mm,
You know, my mum would get everyone at it, bit manipulation. It was not. It wasn't easy, you know.
mm, mm.
And there was real trouble at times, you know. Fucking hell, you know. And you look back, and it's just stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just stuff, and it's, you know, you come through it. That was then. This is now, you know. You come to realize it's just
Yeah.
stuff. Even when the good stuff happens, it's
Yeah.
just stuff, and it's empty essentially. So it's good, and it made you feel nice, but it's impermanent, and the bad stuff's impermanent. So it's
Yeah.
all to do with your karma. You know, you experience what you had to experience. You know, so I'm by the way, I don't normally go into that stuff in
Mm,
sort of podcasts. It's just you've been honest to me and told me something,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I'll respond in kind, you
No,
know,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
without saying too much, because it's not appropriate to go into too much detail with this stuff. Doesn't need to. The broad
Yeah.
brushstrokes are enough, you know. But yeah, so that
Mm,
was for me, a very difficult age where I felt at a loss to
yeah.
know what to do to curry favor or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do because I had an old man you couldn't even have a conversation with. His
Yeah.
view would be, I'm in the wrong just to start with, would be,
Yeah.
you know, I'm fucking useless, you know.
Mm,
So we never had a conversation. He's never seen me play. He had no interest in any of that
yeah. Yeah.
whatsoever. And he had his own cross to bear, you know.
Well,
I have to say with this, I have to add this, you see, if it's like,
yeah.
oh, he sounds really horrible, get this. And this can explain stuff with people. For a start, he went through the depression. I
Yeah.
remember he got badly bashed up. One of his little mates had a birthday, and I remember this story. He took the little kid back home to the house where he lived in Salmon's Lane, and
Mm,
gave him the last of the bread and jam, his little mate, and that was the
yeah.
last of the bread and jam in the house. So he got the shit kicked out of him, apparently. But furthermore, get this. In the book, there's a picture of my old man in my book, and he's an eighth army. He was at El Alamein, eighth army veteran. He's in a
Mm,
tin bath with some geezer and two other guys, fit as fiddles in their boys really, but in their early 20s, seeing stuff that you shouldn't be seeing at any age, let alone that age.
mm,
I get a letter off some geezer in Southampton, very nice fellow. I've lost contact with him now, and he said, "Do you know the story of that picture?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Well, my granddad Harry is the other bloke in the bath with your dad Harry. And a few days later, their column was attacked in the desert by the Luftwaffe, and my granddad Harry lost his sight. And your dad comforted him under the truck because they were being strafed by the Luftwaffe." And you just think, fuck you know, look,
wow.
puts it different. You kind of think, you know, and I know he come back from the war. He locked himself away and taught himself German piano pieces. I never heard him sort of play, but
Mm,
you just think, well, actually, it's a fucking wondrous thing that he was able to do the job. I'm brought into this world. I'm clothed and fed.
yeah.
There were things not right, but you know, it was what it fucking was, and you
Yeah. Yeah.
acknowledge it, but you don't. You know, you acknowledge it for better and for worse. I've been recompensed because I've had tremendous kindness from strangers over the years. Do you see? So
Yeah.
everything balances out, you know.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that, John. Yeah, it like I know like with my dad and like when you're younger, some you know you don't like with my folks, particularly my dad. I'd say I didn't know what he'd been through when he was younger. So he was brought up. You know, there were three of them,
Yeah. I mean, Chorley's
and
tough, right? It's tough.
yeah, it was. I mean, you know, it was. I mean, he was born there. My mum was born in Blackrod, which is not far away, like in near Horwich, around that way. So my dad, when he was there were three, him and his sister and brother, and I didn't know my granddad on that side because he died when I was about two.
Mm.
But my grandma was, she lived till like I think like about 88 or something like that. And it was only like when my dad was, sort of not far off dying. Both my mum and dad died about 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, and my dad was like saying that when he was a kid, his mum and dad used to fight all the time, and he said
Mm.
he'd sort of go to sleep and he'd just have the pillow over his head, just saying, "I wish it'd fucking stop, just stop it." And my granddad had this similar sort of trauma by being in the war. He never like when he came back, he didn't have a job. He couldn't probably get a job to tide them over, so there was no money, and they were rowing.
And a lot of them come back from the war. They were troubled with what they'd
Yeah,
seen.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So he'd sort of, he would go down the pub, but I don't think I don't think he sort of spent all the money down the pub, but he did go down the pub, and then he'd come back and they'd have a row, and then my grandma and the kids would sort of leave. So my dad sort of grew up with this real sort of instability in his life, both, kind of like emotionally and financially as well. And that was the so he then basically got himself his education, got himself he became a mechanical engineer. And so he kind of like did that himself, and he tried to sort of pass that on to me about the importance without telling me what had sort of gone on until much later,
Mm.
that sort of came out. But like you're right that about when you have a relationship with somebody that they've got their own sort of stuff that's gone on in the past that you don't always know about.
You don't know about, and as I think you come to see the continuity, and I come to see there was a perfect continuity from how our man was.
Hmm.
I'm living. He was a bit of a secret thespian. He had that about him. He loved
Yeah,
music. He loved
yeah.
Beethoven.
Same with my dad
Um,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, loved Beethoven.
Mm,
I mean, I've got
mm,
to tell you this very quickly. So he come
mm,
back from the war. There was a room in the house at the top of like where the goods trains used to go over to the docks, Commercial Road. And my cousin was telling me he went in. He spent time there in a darkened room, taught himself to play German piano pieces.
mm,
I didn't
mm,
know that
mm,
until a couple of years ago. Well, when my son Charlie was at football academies, and these football academies, it was when he went into it, it was like, oh fucking hell, this is going to be a bit of a ride, and it is. He was a good player, very
mm.
good player, but skillful
Yeah.
attacking player. But you just know there's going to be bullshit. So you get these kind of mad things where he would go on. He was at Wigan when Martinez was there, but he'd go on, and you got these young coaches. At the time, Mourinho was their patron saint, But he'd go
Right.
on, he'd get a hat trick. There was a kid who'd been at Man City, he was really good, but played him through a few times, and he was really good, and he got a hat trick in 20 minutes. Gets pulled off with the other kid and blanked by the coach because they
Mm,
haven't pressed in exactly the way he wanted them to, which is
right.
just, it's kind of just mad. And so you guide them
Yeah.
through that sort of stuff, but it'd be sort of fucking on, kind of been cold shouldered by it. And these coaches, the young blokes, they're just no marks. They're just not up to very football's full of no marks in the way that major music companies used to be. It's
Yeah.
some good people, some ex players, and some good coaches, but a lot of no marks of one kind and another, and a lot of nepotism, all that kind of stuff. It just is what it is. It's same as music. Very similar to industry actually in lots of ways. People
Yeah.
chasing these dreams, and all that.
Mm,
So it's got a really ugly side to it.
mm,
But anyway, his way of coping, he played music very young, was in Chinese orchestra, but he would come back and he taught himself German piano pieces.
wow.
It was like,
Yeah.
fuck, when I found out about my dad, I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking amazing. So you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
this continuity. So my old man, so the whole thing with all this stuff is, the whole thing is, it stops with me.
Mm.
It stops with me. It stops with me and gets converted. So this
Yeah.
thing, it's so misunformed and childish and dysfunctional and inefficient and pointless. And
Mm.
I'm big enough with the information at hand and knowing the right people. This stuff comes in. I'm part of this wave. I'm a continuity of my dad. And he
Yeah.
was my dad. I've done all the when I got my Irish passport. I wanted to find stuff as you get tests done, and you actually
Mm.
like DNA, and actually found out, yeah, the birth. So the good news is actually it was your dad. It's like that's
Yeah.
great. Fantastic. Not that there was any doubt, but you know what I mean.
It's good to have
Um,
it confirmed, isn't it?
yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
but because you do sort of think, how could you fucking hate your son so much in a way? Like what
Yeah.
it seems so weird to me that like
Mm.
you'd be so kind of have such a problem, but then you start to understand why. There's so much anger
Mm.
and shit there. That's not they've not had the chance to work through. Had to be very dutiful. We've never missed a day off work, by the way. That's all good.
Mm.
Um, so you're a continuation of that. You have a
Mm.
realization, and you just think, right, stops with me. So that's not going to going forward. I'm going to lead a purposeful life, a loving life, and of course, in so doing, you lived the life he would have loved.
Yeah.
I know he would. He did. He
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable in the East End. He wasn't
Mm.
comfortable with the vulgarity of it. He wasn't comfortable. He used to say they're a rabble round here. So he had a
Mm.
thing. He'd walk about with in the summer. He'd have shirt off,
Mm.
but he looked smart somehow. Even then, he'd hold himself,
Yeah.
sort of smart. And
Yeah.
but I know he wanted to be cultured. I think I remember saying, because I was left wing about officers in the fucking officer class. I would have wanted to fight them more than the Germans, and he'd be really
Yeah.
angry. There's some of them were decent men. And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, yeah, there probably a lot of them were like school teachers.
Mm.
So he would have met men maybe from the shires or from other classes, and I think he liked that. He liked that. He liked the idea of being cultured. He took
Yeah.
elocution.
Yeah.
He took elocution lessons. So when they come
Right.
out, he eventually. I think there was a bit of a delay in him getting back into the swing of things, if you know what. So I think there were mental health issues there. But he
Mm.
went and he studied, where you go to college, to get some qualifications and all that stuff. He didn't want to be blue collar, so he was too old to do the apprenticeship on the river. And his
Mm.
brother
Mm.
was a priest, and the one who would have done it, Johnny, he died. I'm named after him. He drowned. So it's
Mm.
a tough life. I mean, my mum died in the road grounds from breathing all the fibre, and her dad was alcoholic.
Yeah.
Tough, it's tough
It's tough,
sort of
isn't it?
stuff. Irish immigrants, blah, 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 all that stuff. Different mix of other bloods in there as well, I found out, but mainly Irish, very poor.
Mm.
Starting with a potato famine, but then going into the 20th century, coming over. I'm an Irish citizen.
Mm.
I carry some of that still. Like I've got that identity. It's part of me, and they, very, very, very sort of tough upbringing. So you
Yeah.
can, So anyway, I mean, the basic thing you can see that, and you can see where that kind of come from. And I can't
Mm.
remember the point. What was the point I was going to make? I was going to make another point. There you go. I fucking lost it. But what was
It,
I
was-
going
it,
to
was-
say?
it was like about continuity.
Our continent, yeah,
Yeah.
you end up living the life he would have really loved to have lived, and
Yeah.
that in itself makes things right. Just that in itself.
So it's an interesting one. This talking about that. Like my dad was like he was a really good athlete, and he played amateur football for Leyland Motors. Right, that was his local team, and then he got trials for Blackburn and then Everton. He was really good. He was a good sprinter, and he was a really good
Mm.
footballer. But the reason that he went to the trials, and the reason he didn't like go forward with them, was because he said, "I just wanted to play. I just wanted to play." And all they were doing, they were like, I was like, having 10 minutes here, 10 minutes off, 10 minutes here, and then, and then I'd have to wait. It's too much waiting around, I'll never forget that
I get
when he
that.
took.
I really get
Yeah.
that.
And I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
that is so kind of, he was just like, it's not like how he viewed that part of his life was he wanted to do it. He wasn't interested in the, being able to say that he played for Blackburn or he played for Everton. He just wanted to play. That was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing. It was very, it was like sort of purist.
Well, it's the opposite back to what we were talking about before we started to record about English public school boys and that thing I
Mm,
was saying
mm,
about they're kind of outside of it. They're overseers, you know, and they're kind of, tend to be bureaucrats to get nice soft numbers and be in control. And there isn't that rather naive, charming quality of just getting stuck in and flowing and doing it.
yeah, yeah,
So they're often not, there's often something missing with the political class, particularly of being
yeah,
able to be hands on and do things,
yeah,
and play.
yeah,
And sometimes it's interesting that it's something I've discussed with my boy because my boy went through the academy system. I got
mm,
him out and put him in to a non-league situation, thinking it'd be like a reserve team, but he went in the first team, and so the scouts come again, and blah 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 blah, and
yeah.
he ended up being in York. Actually, he was there when
Wow,
when
that's
Jackie
amazing.
McNamara was there. He was a very
Yeah,
nice guy. Jackie, he was there. Ended up because they ended up in trouble with relegation,
yeah,
and so anyway, he ended up sort of at Stockport County, belonged to Stockport County, and he ended up there. And you actually were very nice, because he was a
mm,
young pro. He'd been living there. He lived there at age 60. Anyway, whatever. He he decided, he knew he could have a career in football, but just thought, you know what, I want to play music, and I
mm,
asked him to do a OU certificate of higher education for the Open University, which
yeah,
is like the equivalent at 16 of doing um, the first year at university rather
mm,
than doing A levels. I knew that would have to be the case because I knew, although they said, oh, yeah, he can do A levels, I knew he wouldn't do A
mm,
levels. I knew that wouldn't be allowed to happen. And because he's got to train. So
yeah, yeah,
the best
yeah,
they'd do would fit in sports science, which I not don't let me down. He knows that my elder boy was really into that. Sport. He did boxing and he did sports science, BTEC,
mm,
and blah blah blah.
yeah,
And so it's fine, But Charlie was sort of, you can say, actually, you happen to be academic. And he took to that, and he said, he come to me and said, Joe, I want to do music. I want to go to university, and I want to do study, and I want
yeah,
to play my music. And so he's really got it together now. And we talked about that, and we talked hard. Hardly anyone got near to making it, and he played with some players that were, tipped to play for England and all that.
mm,
Some
mm,
really good players. He played against some of the household names you've got in
yeah,
soccer now,
yeah, yeah,
in the Northwest and have gone to the continent now.
yeah,
And it's funny, that the players that, get through. And it's a little bit like, he kind of likened it to SAS selection sometimes. The people that are
yeah,
watchful, they're not at
yeah,
the front of the pack, they're not at the back of this, kind of in the middle. You don't
yeah,
notice them. There's one player who I always thought would make it, and he kind of got a career lower league. I won't say who it is because it'd be unfair to, but I always said that lad would do it. I liked him. He had a good attitude. He quietly got about his business, avoided all the dramas,
mm,
seemed to be overlooked by a lot of the coaches. It wasn't
mm,
Wigan, it was another league club,
mm,
and he just had some stamp out. He managed to stay in there and just make the selection,
yeah,
from year to
yeah, yeah,
year. Had skill, but not too much.
mm,
Had a pragmatic. It was so fascinating, and so yeah, Micho talked about that a lot, about the ones who make it and the ones who don't. Of course,
you
the very
don't,
best
yeah,
talented players, not one of them came near to it. They all a bit like your dad, like, oh fuck this, I don't enjoy this anymore. I just want
yeah,
to play,
yeah. Do
And
you,
luckily with Charlie was touching on that a bit because it becomes a job. By the way, I have to say, when he ended up at Stockport County, Jim Gannon was the coach there,
mm,
manager, and Charlie thought that was the best manager he ever had. He thought Gannon was
really?
fantastic,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
And Gannon was really turning him into a footballer because
Yeah,
he's a class up. Very good coach, Stockport County legend, but also got his A badge and all that. He really knows
yeah,
football. And a very nice guy. Really, really,
yeah,
he'd come out and me, are you Charlie? Do you want a cup of tea? Like, really nice fella.
yeah.
Knows
The thing is,
football,
like,
But Charlie had just kind of got to the point where, no, I want more than. He loved it, cracked on, but wanted more than dressing room banter,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
drinking Red Bull and hanging off the crossbar before the
yeah,
training session and all
yeah.
that caper,
I
So,
remember.
all good, you know.
Do you remember? Oh, when was he? When did he sort of come around? Do you remember a footballer called Julian Darby?
Rings a
He
bell. Rings a
he
bell.
played. He played for. So he started off playing for Bolton, and then he signed for Man City, and he played
Mm,
for England a couple of times. And I think because he had a couple of serious leg breaks
mm,
when he was sort of younger. So he kind of didn't quite get, do as much for England as he should have done. But I remember I played against him. Like he was playing for this team called Bolton Lads Club, which is basically like a feeder club for Bolton
mm,
Wanderers. And this was I was maybe about 14 or something like that. And we had a decent side
mm,
and played against him with Julian Darby. And like first thing physically, he was like this,
mm,
and he was built like a sort of like proper kind of fit, big,
mm.
big lad.
They've got that
And
look. They've got not
yeah,
much body fat
not much
generally,
body
right?
fat, just really fit. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh Christ, and we got thrashed like 11-1. And we had a decent team, and he
Mm,
was just like just steamrolled all over.
yeah.
I'll never. That's another one. I'll never bloody forget that.
Yeah, yeah. I played in an old man's game, and it was a Bolton guy. The guy Phil Jones was it? Was it Jones? Something Jones, the guy that played alongside Big Sam in the 70s.
Could it have been Phil Jones? Yeah, I remember. So I
Paul
remember
Jones. Paul
Paul
Jones.
Jones
Is it
played
Paul
like was he
Jones?
as a centre half, like centre half
Yes.
alongside
Yeah.
Sam
Was it?
Allardyce? Yeah,
It was.
could have
He was
been.
alongside Allardyce. But anyway, it was like walking football. Well, sort of indoors. Say walking, people still jogged it, and I just noticed this guy very humble. But I just literally, fucking hell, that bloke doesn't look like he's got much, but he's always in the right place. Always in the right place and never makes a mistake. And I thought, God, I could still learn from that. And of course, it turned out, I think it's a guy, Paul, very nice fella, just such a humble, been around the game, nice guy. But last
Yeah,
time I
yeah.
bumped into him was at Wimbledon, when Wimbledon, I think, were at home to, I wonder who it was. They were at home to a team he was associated. Might have even been Stockport County.
Mm,
He was there because yeah, I think it probably would have been because that was at like Stockport County walking football and all that. I
yeah,
played for them a
yeah,
few times, and he was a nice, very nice fella. And I think it's
yeah,
Paul Jones, or Paul something other.
yeah.
I think Paul Jones, but Paul was his first name. But he was whoever he was. I remembered his name very well because
Mm,
when Tottenham went down, they played against Bolton. In the
mm,
70s, going down again this year, by the way. But
yeah, yeah.
they went down. I mean, it was a great 2-2 draw at the old Burden Park, and a Big Sam. I enjoyed Big Sam's autobiography as well, actually, or
Okay, I
biography.
haven't read that.
It's really good. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
What you expect, big tough centre half, no
yeah, yeah,
nonsense.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, with your sons, I saw them playing with you at Signature Brew up in when was that? So
Oh,
that
did
was
you?
in yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. What's that?
yeah,
That was in when was that? November was it
yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that? November, yeah.
He's got his. I said to him two things with his instrument: get the pedals and get solid state. Where you plug in and you're as loud as everybody else.
Yeah, yeah,
And he's
yeah,
really got his sound.
yeah.
He's really good. Both of them have really come on. So I think I'm really happy he made the
They were
right
great.
choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's made the right choice with it because when he told me about football, I think he thought I was going to be a bit upset, but I was like, no, this is really good. This is what it's all about. It's about taking control of your life, deciding what you want to do. My big fear, it's a terrible thing with the football. I think anyone family gone into it, it's like, oh fucking hell, because you got to take it. If you're going to, you got to try and take, you got to get it 100%.
Yeah.
Be there on time and all that stuff. And I always say, Joe, we're here on time, and for you, not for them. This is for you
Mm,
to
mm,
learn to be
mm.
sort of on time and dependable and blah blah blah. But the big fear is that they end up getting dropped from the game in their 20s, and it's
Yeah, yeah,
harder. So I
yeah.
was really keen to sort of avoid that with him, and for him to take control of it.
I think
And
you're totally right with that. Totally
yeah,
right with it.
you know,
Because if something happens in your I don't know, you like your early 20s, mid 20s, you've got the rest of your life, and
Yeah. I mean,
then
you
it's like,
still,
what do I do?
it's never too late to sort of start again, especially if you're in your 20s, as I know, when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
stopped drinking and all that, you
Mm,
can start again. It's a bit of an effort, and even for
mm,
me, it took 4 years before I was back in music full time.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
it was preparation for that great life experience and everything, but I'm really glad that they're playing and they got to a point now where they're moving fast. They're doing WOMAD this year, and just recently,
That's
I
amazing.
said to my missus,
Brilliant.
well, there's nothing much now. They've got their way. They've done a John Cole the other night. They put something up on Instagram. It's
Mm,
Love Supreme, their version, and he makes more of that melody the way they're playing it. I really get the melody more than from the. I'm not saying it's better than John Coltrane. It's just that they've kind of
mm,
opened it up. They've got to
yeah,
the
yeah.
essence of what the melody was about, and John's done this other beat to it, and it was
Mm,
like fucking hell. That's really mature. I couldn't have done that. I
that's
couldn't have done
brilliant.
that. It's to take Coltrane in such a way. I couldn't
Yeah,
do that. You're going way beyond what I could do, which is what the student's supposed to do.
yeah,
So, and it's like great because I'm getting old. I don't know, maybe who knows how fucking long. I've got a few health things. I'm reasonably fit, but fuck knows.
yeah, yeah,
I always figured I don't know if I'd go much past 70 if I'm still alive and kicking in anyway. I've got 2.5
mm,
years to go. But anyway, he made, I'm really delighted
that's
because it's
so
like,
good.
yeah, you made the right choices. And by the way, he got a first at King's. So he
That's
was
amazing,
really,
isn't it? Yeah.
he loved it. He loved studying.
What
He
did
was
he
going to,
study?
well, that was the great thing because he'd done the OU course and it was humanities,
Mm,
especially like philosophy and ethics. And
yeah.
so he was just going to go to, he hadn't really thought about it. He just wanted, he loved books. So he thought, well, I'll just do English is what I want to do. And I said, you should maybe think of music and philosophy.
Mm,
And
mm,
King's come back to him when he applied and said, and he did apply for one or two other things. And he'd applied for, um, I think philosophy and economics or something there. And they said, why don't you do philosophy and ethics? Because all these they actually took time out because I think
mm,
it's unusual to see a fella at 18 who's already got the first year of university under their belt effectively. They said
yeah.
these modules will tie in with our philosophy ethics course. And
Mm,
he actually decided he could have gone in at the second year, but he wanted to do the first year. He wanted to go
okay.
back and do the first year. He'll have passed. He wanted to go back just to make sure and enjoy, feel like he's really doing the 3 year, and he done it. And yeah, he got first. Unfortunately, COVID came halfway through, which really
Mm,
fucked it up. But at least he had the year, and he loved it there.
did
And
he? Yeah.
he was going to go and do an MA. I think he forgot to put the check in with the MA
Right.
application. Ended up getting two jobs, and I thought, well, he'll get sacked within 2 weeks. I give him 2 weeks, both of them, because he's unemployable, I'm sure. But he kept both jobs. Left the one in. He worked in a restaurant at night, and he works in the city. Still working. He ended up going to another company. So
Mm,
he's working, earning, having great life experience. I'm really proud of him. You know.
yeah, no, you should
And
be.
John,
Yeah.
he lives in Liverpool. He's married, got a little granddaughter, and
Yeah.
John can really play. I mean, Charlie's really come to the fore just recently with the playing. John already had he boxed, but he had a reputation locally as a really good drummer. He studied with apart from being in the Chinese orchestra with the father-in-law, the
Mm,
pagoda in Liverpool, in
right.
Chinatown. He
Yeah.
played with Stockport Percussion Ensemble. So he
Okay.
had a great teacher called Mr. Fitchett who was unbelievable. So hit.
Mm,
So at 8, 9, he's doing Dave Brubeck, playing
wow.
percussion and
Jeez.
kit. So they were, I mean, Stockport Percussion Ensemble had an incredible reputation. I guess they're still going, but he just realizes what a debt he owes there. And of course, he was exposed to my stuff, and he got fascinated with Jackie, and he's developed his own style. So he's very assured, and when he come to do a couple of sessions with my band 2 or 3 years ago, I remember
Mm,
they didn't really know his plan, and he did like a funk beat, and George. the keyboard player. If someone's just not that good, they go, it's all right. George just turned to me and went, yeah, he's got it, hasn't he? He's like, yeah. He was like, because he was just like, fucking hell. Yeah, he's got that.
So
He's got that feel,
was he trained?
Yeah, he's trained. So
He's trained.
Stockport Percussion Ensemble. He had lessons. The
Okay.
primary school he went to, by
Yeah.
chance, had a percussion teacher that my missus knew from classical sort of
Yeah.
background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just by chance, they wasn't a remarkable primary school or anything, but they just happened to have a percussion teacher there.
Wow, that's
So he
good.
had that. He went on to play Stockport Percussion Ensemble for a few years.
Yeah.
Played Chinese drums. He learned to play Chinese drums with my father-in-law.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, they gave him what Charlie's instrument, a erhu bowed, which is very tricky. Charlie's now making it sound like muted trumpet. He can make it sound like
Mm,
Miles Davis. He can make it sound like sax. He's now using the pedals. He can do anything with it now. He's
yeah.
got real control over the instrument.
Mm, mm,
With John, they wanted to do a, and I said all the way, but then he's a drummer, and they were getting he wouldn't practice, he wouldn't, he was mucking about, and I said he's a drummer. I said he's a drummer. He's a drummer. That's what I'm saying to me, missus and me. And in the end, they put him on drums, and that was it. He's a drummer.
He's a
And
drummer. There
they
you
live
go.
in a parallel universe. But he learnt the Chinese drums, and the father-in-law taught him that. So I've got a big Chinese drum sitting over there I don't know why it's here, by the way. I've got a big, massive Chinese drum in the front room that he's left here. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but so he trained and as so that
It's
I'm really proud and happy. I'm really happy with him. Just in terms of now, yeah, I've just told you just about all the shit I can. There's the odd thing, like I suddenly remember a track like Arthur Bligh,
mm,
um, Bush Baby,
yeah.
by Arthur Bligh, and I play him. He said, "Listen, listen, listen. I forgot this. I've never played you this." So I've played them tons of stuff from
Yeah.
Keith Moon through to reggae and this and that and the other. Charlie did rap for a while. He worked under the
Mm,
name GZTN, and he put some
mm,
rap. He got a load of hits on YouTube and that kind of
mm,
work. But then eventually he's just gone back more and more to the. He never stopped playing. He would always be playing some of the traditional Chinese gigs. But
yeah.
now he's really sort of, um, he's really developed.
It's
And
funny. I like when I was a kid. I played the I played the cello, and I was trained. I did all my exams. I think I
yeah,
like got through to my exams, like my practical exams, when I was like about 16. I finished them, and I did about four of the theory ones. I hated the theory. I couldn't. It was hard. I found it really hard. So I took them up to like four and then stopped. I was like, I'm not going to pass any more than this. But it's funny. It's funny that sort the sort of the experience that your kids have had with you, and your missus and the teachers. Because I never felt like it was my own. It was like my dad was sort of I don't mean this disrespectfully, but he was sort of pushing me into it, and it was never enjoyable.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? It's like you got to love music, and
mm,
and it felt like a chore, and I was learning this classical framework and all this sort of stuff. But when my folks started getting towards the end of their life, I felt like there was, and my dad was really disappointed when I gave it up, like
mm.
really disappointed.
How long did you do it for?
I was doing it for about, I was probably about 9 years,
Wow.
like
So
like from like nine to 17.
what grade did you get to? Not that
I
that
got to I
matters.
got to grade eight. I'd passed me grade
Yeah.
eight
So
in
you were
the
right
the
up there.
practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I played in like the school orchestra, played in another orchestra. I did some bit of solo stuff as well. But this was just before COVID. I went down to the Yamaha store in Soho and said
Yes.
to the guy, I kind of explained, and he said, I said, I just want to play it. You just want to try it. And I went in, and he said, "Oh yeah, just go into this room, shut the door, and there were about three cellos on the wall." And I'll tell you what, as soon as I got hold of that neck in my hand, like all these like feelings and like emotions sort of came back.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck, I didn't expect that.
Mm,
Just all the stuff that I probably pent up over the years, and I played it, and I was like still rusty, but the stuff was still there. Anyway, I bought myself like a sort of cheapo one, um, to see if
How much
how
was a cheapo one?
it was about 200 quid,
Oh, that's actually not bad. Second hand or just a copy?
just a copy,
Yeah,
just a sort
yeah,
of cheap copy.
yeah.
And I've actually just got some new strings here. I'm going to put them on it,
Mm.
um, but I
So
did that.
you have you been reading music again? Has that come back to you?
That's sort of coming back to me, but
Mm.
it's interesting because I want to basically, like, the last time that I learnt about it. So my last experience is working in this sort of classical framework where there's a right and a wrong, and you can't do it like this. You have to do it like that, and all that kind of stuff. It's very regimented.
Yes.
So I want to get out of that.
See,
So I'm having to.
that's everything you're saying is so valid. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's a real issue. A lot of the classical bit, I mean, are so bloody regimented and stiff, and
yeah,
you think, fucking
yeah,
else has got not much to do with music. We're back to the argument of your
yeah,
dad on the
yeah,
football pitch,
yeah.
theory versus
Yeah.
playing and flowing and
Playing.
doing it. You know.
Yeah. No, I know that, like, with scales and stuff like that, they're important to sort of practice them
Mm.
for a variety of reasons, but there needed to be more. So, like, it was funny. Like, a friend of mine just said to me, sort of casually, "Oh, you need to get yourself some pedals." Talking about what you were saying with
I was about to say, yeah.
Charlie. He said, "Get yourself some pedals." So I was like, and he just said it as a throwaway statement,
Mm.
and I did. So I've got myself like a little sort of pedal board. I'm sort of building it up and learning how to put it together and all that. And this is like
Where
a
do you live?
revelation. I'm in London, in Battersea.
Come to Tuned In. I'll get you in the studio and we'll
Yeah.
record you. Yeah.
Oh God.
It'd be
Oh,
about, yeah.
just,
Oh no, no, no,
no,
no, no.
no,
Stop all the fear. This is a fear-free zone. So we would love to record. It'd be our honour to record the cello. We haven't had any strings players down there that I can
oh
record.
my God.
Maybe people a little bit of bowing, maybe 3 or 4 years, but nothing really. So come down there.
Yeah.
We're about in about roughly.
I'm near the park, near like Queenstown Road and Battersea Park
I'm
Station.
I'm always around. I'm always walking around there.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Oh, I'm up north now. I'm in London
yeah,
half the time. You know.
yeah.
Um, but I'll get you in, and I'm not bullshitting you. You come there, we'll record it.
Oh, bloody
Okay.
hell.
And you'll really enjoy it. We'll have a talk before. Maybe we don't normally do covers, but a lot of classical stuff would be out of copyright now. So
Yeah, yeah,
we could
yeah.
take a theme, from some Mozart thing or something, I
Mm,
mean,
mm.
the first thing that comes to mind is The Lamb, like John Tavener. That kind of,
Mm,
it's such a soulful thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we'll work something out. And
blimey,
we maybe get one of the other players down. There's some very, very good players there, you know. But we'll
blimey.
record you. We're up the road basically in Merton.
In
We do it
Merton,
at
right?
Wimbledon Library. So you
Yeah.
come out of Wimbledon station and you turn right. You get the 93 bus goes right outside.
Mm, mm,
Out there. You can get there from Battersea easy peasy. You know what I mean?
mm,
Go
yeah.
basically you get to walk up to Clapham Junction and you
Mm,
get the train to Wimbledon.
okay.
So it's easy.
Yeah.
You take your cello down there. It'd be our honour. We'd be very interested in it, and you'll be surprised at the results.
Well, the slight problem, apart from me shitting myself, is that my cello isn't here; it's in Spain.
Right?
That's the other
Why
thing.
is it in
But
Spain?
because I've got a place there, and that's where our place here in London is like really small, and I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
don't have room for it. So
yeah. That's the
it's out
trouble.
there.
The place I stay in London is a rabbit hutch.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
might get in trouble if you housed a rabbit in there with the RSPCA. It's a rabbit hutch, man. But it's in London and it does the
yeah,
job. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, totally.
well, you can borrow a cello from
But
somewhere.
these are logistics. Yeah, I can work
Yeah,
something out. Yeah,
and you don't
yeah,
shit yourself because you just come and you just play. And we make it. There's so much we can do with technology anyway.
Mm,
to even
yeah,
things
yeah,
out, to manipulate things, to take the essence of what you
yeah,
do
yeah,
and
yeah,
manifest it into something else. So it'll
yeah,
be, and this is wonderful, because it's again, it's continuity. Yet again, it's just for some reason the theme here is fathers and sons and awkward
yeah, yeah,
relationships with fathers and sons, and you're
yeah,
making something right. I mean,
yeah,
another thing, I was a very bright boy talking of that important age, 8, 9, 10. When I went to secondary school, and I got terrible behaviour. I just went complete, because I've become this angry, bright but very angry youth,
mm,
and didn't get any qualifications really. I went back as a mature student to Birkbeck and got the degree myself in the which was great, because yet
yeah,
again I didn't even realise it was a big deal. It was a Russell Group university. I got a
mm,
2-1. I
mm,
was able to advise Charlie, my son,
yeah,
because I was
yeah,
like, oh, you know what, Colin, I think you should just do English, apply for philosophy, apply for this.
mm,
You could even do it.
mm,
There was another thing, a music thing that, mixed music philosophy, which he said to me, do you know what, that would have been a great course to do as well. 4-year course. You could have been in studios in that university playing, another Russell Group university, you know.
yeah.
So, but me doing that meant I could give him some advice.
Some
Now,
advice and
the
help him
other
out.
boy,
Yeah,
yeah, John, as I say, was never going to be. He got offered a scholarship at uni with because of the boxing and sports science, and he didn't want to know, couldn't be bothered. Said, no, I
mm,
don't want, I still got to take a loan out. I'm not interested. He wanted to work and play. It's fair enough. But
yeah,
his experience, he passes stuff on to me with nutrition and all that. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
About what smoothies should have and shouldn't have, and blah blah blahs. I wanted to do a bit of weight and this, that, and the other,
mm,
and fitness sort of stuff, and
mm,
and so yeah, and you just passing stuff on. So yeah,
yeah,
you're going to come down there. There's no, you don't need to shit yourself. You just relax, because in essence, it's a conversation like
yeah,
we're having now. You're not shitting yourself now. You don't need
yeah,
to shit yourself then. You just fucking play.
yeah. Amazing. I
Yeah,
will. We'll
yeah,
do that. Yeah,
yeah. And
I'll pull myself off
it's
the floor and do
it's
it.
very easy to get to.
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I just wanted to, I think we sort of touched on it on a few things, but this, the idea of impermanence. I'm just interested in your opinion on it, like impermanence, and its relationship with, the relationship of
Right. Okay.
permanence.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah,
Because I've got this down pat, sort of. Hopefully.
I'm thinking. Sorry, let me just. So
Yeah.
the part that I'm interested in is nostalgia.
Well, no, but let's go back more to basics. Otherwise, we're
Okay,
just picking out. Otherwise, we're looking at a phenomena, of a loose
okay,
phenomena called nostalgia. This is a whole bit of phenomena arising.
yeah,
So often with Buddhism, you'll hear about the Four Noble Truths.
mm,
There's suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there's antidotes to suffering, there's a causation for and that's normally the starting point.
mm,
Actually, I just like the four pillars of Buddhism.
mm,
All conditioned phenomena to start with lack an inherent self.
mm.
So bear with me with this. We'll get to
Sure.
nostalgia.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm looking at a table. Got a table in front of me. It needs to be repainted actually, but whatever. It's got legs. It's got component parts, and the component parts have component parts, and it's basically wood as much as anything. So it needed water and air and light in order. Doesn't have. There isn't an actual essence of table in it. With me, you won't find an exact soul, an exact essence. In Buddhism, you say there's 5 aggregates, there's 5 heaps that form you, and your real you don't have an inherent self in any gathering of them or in any of the individual component parts that
Mm,
also have component parts. So there's a lack of inherent existence with things. There's a whole nexus. There's interdependent causation and arising. Things arise, phenomena
mm,
arise, things happen. It's not saying they're not real or they don't exist or they're a complete illusion. They do, but there's an empty quality. There's a lack of inherent existence. Because there's it's there's a lack of inherent existence. There's a lack of permanency. It's not permanent. It's
Mm.
impermanent. They're impermanent because we cling to the essence of permanency of a definite thing. This is me. I'm 67. I'm a bass player. I'm a nice person.
Mm.
I'm disappointed in my football team. I think I'll give up on them. I'm not sure what we're going to eat tonight. I've got to talk to the missus to find out if she's got a delivery from the supermarket. Otherwise, we'll end up having two lots of shopping.
Mm.
I do interval walking. I do this. I'm this. I'm that. There's all these just fucking ideas, and I'm going to die, but that's not really foremost that I'm going to die because I'm here. It's permanent. So we make the mistake of clinging to an inherent self that's illusionary. It's not there. Not saying that events are illusionary. It's all a dream, man. Not saying that. And they're
Mm.
impermanent. And because we cling to them, they're suffering. So the three of the pillars are all conditioned phenomena, including nostalgia, or that's a kind of phenomena, it's a feeling in the way
Mm.
that we consist of feelings, emotions, thinking, mental formations, consciousness of things, not consciousness generally, but consciousness of things, and body form, these, and it's all a bit imprecise, where
Mm.
feelings and perceptions, kind of intertwine and nostalgia's like that. So so all conditioned phenomena lack an inherent self, they're impermanent, and they're suffering because we make the mistake of attaching and clinging to stuff that's, nirvana is that's not. It's not that. Nirvana is the empty thing. It's more to do with the awareness of awareness
Mm.
of purity. That would be a moot point with a lot of Buddhists. Some Buddhists would say there's a positive affirmation. That's your Buddha nature. That's a thing that's not a thing, but it's there. Other Buddhists like the Dalai Lama, lot, Galupas, majority probably Western Buddhists, enough. That's bollocks. There's just nothing. There's nothing called it. It's just nothing. It's all completely lacks an inherent. Don't try. You're fabricating when you do that. That's another
Mm.
argument. It does, but you get the drift. So
Mm.
nostalgia is just something that arises from different causes. There's nothing wrong with indulging in a bit of nostalgia, but it's a very dangerous thing because you end up doing what we alluded to earlier, being stuck in the past. If
In
not
the past.
nostalgia, my fucking, my old man was horrible to me and I can't forgive it, or it's a mistaken
Mm.
attitude, because
Mm.
that's not happening. It's the
Yeah.
same as, somebody gave me an ice cream when I was 9 and I was happy and I want to get back to that time when I was happy with the ice cream and it's gone, so nostalgia is a kind of dangerous thing. If you cling to a golden age or it's idealistic and you get that lot, it's a very, I'm able to dine out a lot just on having been alive in the 70s and being involved with
Yeah.
punk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
too much is made of that, to be quite
Yeah.
honest. So, what was
Yeah.
your specific? What's your bugbear to do with
I think.
nostalgia?
I think it's like, yeah. I guess it's that I see a lot of stuff around about that is a um hark back to years gone by, and this kind of clinging to it, whether it's kind of interviews with musicians like you that are around in that sort of period, and I don't know, it just sort of feels a bit unhealthy,
Yeah,
like
I
it's
totally agree
like
because
it's
it's
go
not now. It's not now. What am I like now? And where
yeah,
it's fucking dangerous
yeah,
is I've done this, So okay, I've been clean and sober for 39 years, you
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
it's very easy just to sort of, yeah, I'm in recovery, and to get kind of complacent about it.
mm,
Stop maybe helping other people as much as you could do, and just be a
yeah,
bit self-satisfied. And it's
yeah,
very easy to cling on to your own coattails from years before. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a very easy. Yeah. Well, I did that then, and I had, you get it with people in the music business. I had hit records, and that's when I did that. And then back then, and we played. You'll often hear we did this big festival, and it was amazing. And afterwards, there was a party, and I met Prince, and also on the road, I met this films, and it was, and it's like whatever. It's just fucking. It's just stuff. It's great.
yeah. It's
But
stuff, isn't it?
which people tend to do what I said earlier, solidify it. They go back to the past, sit in the past, and we can all do it. I can do it. You can make the mistake, and we
Mm,
replay the movie, and
mm,
psychologically we're in the past rehashing, and it
mm.
and it and it, and it's always a sad. It tends if you've had a troubled childhood, it tends to be sad.
Yeah,
I also get people who idealize it, and because you get people, if it's, I had a sad childhood, and you get other people, I had a happy childhood, and it's normally sort of, to me, I tend to take the over here, whatever. It's great,
mm,
whatever. But a lot of the time with people that are happy, it's often kind of rose-tinted spectacles a little bit. They tend to
yeah.
idealize things a bit, but whatever,
Yes, that's true.
the important thing is you're realistic and you're now. You
I
know,
think this is.
you're,
I think
you're
this is
now.
it. That I guess just sort of generally we seem to have this sort of tendency to lock onto something. There's a. I guess a lot of people, have that kind of comfort. It is a sort of comfort of a particular sort of time in the past, but there's not a. Feels sometimes like there's not a learning from that, and a sort of unwillingness to then move ahead, and sort of use that to evolve yourself,
Well,
to
but
grow.
then you get into laws of entropy, which I can only kind of hazard guesses at. Where things, yet again, you hear it in Buddhism. What was once together comes apart. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
they say life itself is like a gathering in the no marketplaces. Everybody's gathered. Marketplaces are hives of activity. Then in the
Mm,
evening, markets are quite spooky. They're sort of
yeah,
empty right out,
yeah,
and you've
yeah,
got one or two scavengers, and
yeah,
and that's like at the end, everyone departs. And you die. You know,
yeah.
and I see it with my wife's family. When I first, I grew up, my family was already entropy. The East End as because of the docks, because it's a twisty tidal river. That was
Mm,
over. People couldn't get their heads around it. It was very simple. Big ships with containers needed deep ports, and they didn't need to be coming up rivers and fucking, waiting for the tide to change and blah
yeah.
blah blah. And the big family structures and the religious traditions broke down. So the clans
Mm,
broke down. So it's natural. These people coming from abroad, they tend to have clans. A lot of Eastern peoples, their clan, they work together as a clan. You've got no chance of competing with that.
mm,
It's like you're in a midfield on your own with six players getting their footing on you, getting the
yeah,
ball off you. You can't
yeah.
compete with that. But we've lost that clan thing. When I was a kid, we all lived in the same square mile. Sort
Mm,
of
mm,
Stepney, basically. 16 first cousins in that area. All
yeah.
round there. In the East End. So so entropy sort of comes in and things fall apart. Great civilizations is probably the end of the West as we've known it, for sure.
Mm,
Capitalism's part of that. That's kind of all starting to not work. We're seeing a breaking down. It's what my new album's about, actually, Giles. But I've suddenly remembered. You know what I mean? But it's all sort of falling apart. So a nostalgia. Don't get me wrong. One of my favourite dreams was once just coming down, floating down onto Wandsworth Bridge for some reason in
mm,
the 70s when nobody about and feeling very excited. I'm back in the 70s,
yeah.
and it was quite cold, sort of brisk day, and I just sort of dreaming, you know, you know, I've done a bit of DJing recently, and I started on
Okay.
one of them with what they call rare groove, and it's all the stuff I
Mm,
used to listen to in soul clubs, the
yeah,
Jimmy
yeah,
Castor bunch and blah blah blah, that Midwest kind of funk, I loved at the time, and
yeah.
and it's kind of fun, but you just got to be a bit careful with it. And I must admit, the Chinese, my missus,
Mm,
never really discussed it with her. They're very sort of practical. Like I was going to say, with her family, there was this big family that are dying off. So all the elders, and they were great with me. Never had any antipathy. great people, really felt a kinship with them. So
Yeah.
going to China right back early 90s, before
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
married, which was a big deal to do, they were great with me. And I
Yeah.
really liked them, all the uncles, and they really had something about them, by the way. And
Yeah.
very charismatic people, just as China, very interesting people. People think they know China. Fuck all, and all this. We've got to be so scared of China, they take our secrets.
Yeah.
Fuck me,
I know. I know.
what
Yeah.
secrets will we have?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. I know.
and look, I know it's a whole argument, authoritarian societies, and I know, and that probably wouldn't, because I've got a big mouth, so probably wouldn't suit me. I know, but for a lot of regular people actually who toe the line and haven't got a big mouth like me,
Mm.
that your health benefits and all that, and your pension, or as you get older, and the self-respect you get in China, the respect you get is a lot better than
Yeah.
here,
It's a lot better.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really functions by that. I've had people say to me, "Yeah, John, in like blokes I play for, in China." I go, "Yeah, they don't, on them tower blocks, you see those security guards. They're told, if anyone goes out of that, just they shoot them. That was at sort of COVID, and I just thought." I've been in those sort of nice apartment blocks. The
Yeah.
security guards are there to stop people coming in. But what I
Yeah.
do, I go, oh, right, oh, okay. Because I can't be bothered saying,
No.
you
I know.
fucking idiot, stop reading the Daily Mail, for
Yeah.
fuck's sake. But anyway, this sad thing, it's sad, but you go with it. And she knows it's sad. Oh, it was a bit like I saw in my family with Aunt Mary and Uncle Ted, all the great matriarchs dying and
Mm.
patriarchs in the family, you know.
Yeah.
So you'd have the Dockers, well, they were lightermen in my old man's family. So they
Mm.
considered themselves the elite of the river, and
Mm.
they'd bang on the floor, yeah, bring me tea up, you
Yeah.
know. I'm out, but bring me tea up, because they'd all have a kip, because they had to catch the ties. They'd like to have a kip in the middle of the day, which I like to do when I'm working. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the women, they'd roll their sleeves up. They rolled out up the fucking what up them stairs, and all that. They were tough, and they were really tough, and yeah, it's and that's gone, and it's gone in my wife's family, so everything's sort of entropied, and that's a
Mm.
natural, the bigger cog of that, of course, is the Western civilizations, but at the
Mm.
same time, in other respects, China's, so their society's changed. The one child rule was a huge big deal there,
Yeah. Yeah. Is
it's
that still in
funny.
place?
No, no,
No,
don't
that's gone,
believe so.
hasn't
No,
it?
I think
Yeah.
it's long gone. I think,
Yeah.
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 When I went there, it wasn't,
Yeah.
and you know, the Cultural Revolution was a big thing, and I
Mm.
see a lot of the woke people here, very similar mindset to Cultural Revolution. So
Mm.
they wouldn't know that. It's very dangerous, against freedom of speech a lot of the time. Very dangerous. Anger, it's very sort of postmarked anger at the older people, anger at the bourgeois, and all that
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
So very similar that what the Chinese went through, which was a terrible thing, affected everybody terribly, and yet
Yeah.
they're very unvictim. There's something about them. They're very buoyant. So that's just something
Mm.
that's happened. It's processed. They tend not to be terribly nostalgic, in my
Mm.
experience,
Interesting.
or
Yeah.
terribly fixated in a way. They're very much about getting on with it today. And that's what you have to be, because you don't know the past. We only psychologically experience the past or the future. We've only ever
Which
known now.
which is an interesting one actually, because that they have that sort of philosophy of not sort of hanging on to the past in the sort of the way that they do in the UK, which is like around, the whole kind of like, we think that we're this super colonial power in the way that they kind of behave. We
Yeah, well,
still,
it's all very nostalgic now, and
yeah,
that's, I get that. I'm stirred by the sound of a Merlin Spitfire engine.
yeah, yeah.
I'm conditioned to, and that's fine. I'm going to fucking apologise for that.
Mm, mm.
And this country had a lot of decent sort of values. I'm of Irish stock, so I know what the British done in Ireland.
Did there? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know what they've done in Ireland, and the cruelty, and the colonial stuff. but also shit just happens.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, shit at different times. You know, people go and conquer one another. I have to say that the Irish have never gone um and you know invaded anyone, as far as I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you know the Irish are blameless. You know, but the you know in the British in Ireland, you know, did sort of terrible things, but so
Mm,
much is made in a wrong way. Oh, colonial, so we have to rewrite history with our mindset, which will
mm.
be different next week, let alone in 10 years.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just very dysfunctional and angry and looking cultural revolution, looking for victims and everything. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
You know, and so you know, and yet again, people say, "Oh, so you support colonialism?" Well, no, I fucking don't. Listen to what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Which is why I avoid sort of debates
You've
over it.
yes.
It's just so easy to be woke and politically correct, and you know go into the echo chamber of all these things.
Mm,
And of course, you know, the other side, you've got this heavy duty nostalgia, whereas that Brexit really annoyed me, by the way, you know, and
yeah,
it's made it very awkward touring Europe and
yeah.
costly and everything, you know, and all that stuff, you know. And you get really fed up with that, you know. But and that was this thing of the war and foreigners, and it's just ridiculous, you know.
Ridiculous. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
ridiculous, and the whole thing with you know you're not, and on the other side you're not allowed to talk about immigration now, you know, because it's kind of people, oh, nervous, he's going to say something right wing. And it's like, no, you're allowed to look at things and to have
Mm,
to comment upon things, you know,
mm,
and you might
mm,
say, you know, that there's too much too quickly for a while. It's a reasonable thing. It doesn't mean that, you know, on the other hand, you kind of, you know, when people say to me, you know, and they're not being mad right wing nutters, and they say,
mm,
yeah, it's been mass immigration is too much. It's like, yeah, that's right. But fact of the matter is, sort of indigenous population, like the indigenous population, whatever the fuck that is, because yet again, like all conditioned phenomena, it's not exact. You know,
yeah,
it's all
yeah.
kind of, you know, the kind of terms we need linguistic designations, but they're not exact. You know, define
Mm,
indigenous. You know, do you mean
mm,
white? No, actually, you can't say that anymore because
mm,
there's black people grown up here. You know,
yeah.
so you know you can't say that. But the fact of the matter is, the indigenous population will tending to also have less kids. We've got
Mm,
this thing where we need, you know, pensions. How do you keep a huge amount of money spent on amount of money spent on welfare state? Who fucking
mm,
pays for it? Well,
yeah.
immigrants. And yet again, the stuff with the boat, like, don't like all that. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff, crimes committed, sexual crimes, terrible. You can't have it. And a lot of the woke mob will just let that go, I think. And that's not right. You need to get a grip on that.
Mm,
But I have to say, where you this stuff with Deliveroo drivers and all that, and Uber drivers, that you know they're all that's it, and it's this and that. I have to say, all they're my heroes. They bring me my fucking food. They're
yeah.
working for fucking 2 bob. You know, so I
Absolutely.
always
Yeah,
tip
yeah.
these geezers.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
felt it was anyone shady or really dodgy. You
No,
know, so,
totally. Yeah, yeah.
touch wood. Maybe I'll have a
Yeah.
fucking bad experience. I had one bad experience where it didn't get delivered, but that was just down to being in the middle of nowhere, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and they couldn't get a fucking. So in the end, I had to go to the gig. So me McDonald's come because that was the only thing you could get. And I said to the kid behind the reception, "You hungry?" So I said, "Yeah, have that." He'd be like, fucking hell, thanks. I said, it's probably cold now, but eat it up. It was fucking massive meal, like, you know. So the ice cream's probably melted, sorry, you know, but, you know. So it's kind of, you know, it's half, you know, the good thing with Buddhism, you know, you get into the thing that there isn't, you know, as I say, you have a flowing quality because everything's
Mm,
essentially kind of empty and flowing. It's not stuck, you know.
mm,
There's a there's a multitude of ways of looking at things, and of course, what you don't want to do is the whole thing. The key teaching probably of Buddhism is the 12 stages of dependent origination, and you
mm,
get to the point in that where you have contact, and it happens over the course of 3 lifetimes. You can measure it, or you can have it every few seconds. The same
mm,
thing of clinging on to an idea or a concept. You cling on, you contact, you cling, and then you attach, and you won't let go, of it.
Mm,
And so, when you're mindful and you're in the moment, then you realize you're ignorant.
mm,
You have mental formations and habitual tendencies that tends towards selfishness and consider and thinking that one is autonomous.
mm,
You then have as that happens, consciousness arises. You're conscious of other things. You're conscious of the world, yourself,
mm.
and then you have name and form. They call it body. Now we're talking physical body.
Yeah.
And that can be as you're being reborn, or your consciousness being reborn, or just in the moment you're in the physicality. You're separate. You're in the body. You're identifying with the body, identifying with separate self. Now your six senses are working. You're looking out into the world. You're perceiving. You're having contact. Oh, I like that coat in the window of the shop
Yeah.
I've just seen. I want that
Mm,
because I feel incomplete without
mm.
that.
Yeah.
So that's on a minor level, but that could be that fucking gig should have been mine.
Yeah.
That not that fucker up the road. He's
Yeah.
not as good as me. I'm John Wobble. Do you realise what that means?
Yeah.
So now I'm getting into that. Now I'm unhappy. I'm now
Mm, mm.
really not here and now. I'm sort of in the past. I'm sort of in the future. So here and now.
Well, I guess with that sort of compassion and the consciousness as well. I mean, you kind of there's a proximity, closeness, isn't there, to like emotional intelligence? The empathy and the being self-aware. Self-aware of your own thoughts, your own actions, and things like that. And it's still sort of like,
But we're
well,
not robots. We're not robots. So we have
no,
to have some patience.
yeah,
And in Mahayana Buddhism, you have six the parameters. And by the way, I'm not a Buddhist master. Fucking believe me, but I
mm,
know a little bit about it. So it's been
mm,
an influence. So I'll talk about it. I
yeah,
might get it
yeah,
fucking wrong for all I know, but I've had teachers who would be better. People I've always said, go to the proper teacher. They'll that's their game. They'll really
mm,
teach
mm,
you. But you start with generosity. So that's an openness. So when we have this conversation, you're open,
yeah,
I'm open. With there's a generosity there of
yeah, yeah,
giving. I'm not gonna. Well, I don't really want to talk about this. None of your business. My personal stuff. I'm going to
yeah,
promote my record, and I'm going to be out of here in half an hour at the most.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
call you by your first name because I've learned that's a good technique to use in interviews or some bullshit like that.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you start with generosity. So there's an openness there, a giving of not clinging. And
mm,
then moral discipline. And you need that. You need to sort of not be up to stuff you shouldn't be, because that'll cause, because then there's a lack of stability there. You need to know that you're keeping your nose clean, you're keeping your side of the street clean in how you deal in life. So
mm,
you
mm,
tip your fucking Uber driver. You don't,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to, I can get away with that. You tip them,
yeah,
if you can afford it. That's tithing, and
yeah,
then patience. This is a processes within processes, and processes need to happen. It can't happen,
mm, mm,
So there's a flowing, imprecise quality with a lot of this stuff, and we stick linguistic designations on, and then eventually the language is out of date in time. If you listen to Old English from 500 years ago, it sounds more like fucking Dutch,
mm, yeah,
than what we'd understand now. So all this thing, you know, England for the English or something, well, that you know, okay, let's take you back in time, Tudor times. You wouldn't understand anyone, probably,
mm, yeah, 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 yeah,
for starters, yes, it's all imprecise. So patience and then right energy, as they call it, diligence, where you're applying yourself correctly. So
mm,
with
mm,
for me, I would apply that to you. You play cello. Let's get an end result of you playing cello again. Other than
mm,
it making you feel good and nice. Let's get actually something tangible, you know?
yeah,
Okay, it's impermanent, but it's tangible. There's a tangible step. I played cello again. I came at it with maturity and it was wonderful. And I was able to do this, that, and this and achieve this. And it's really great. I'm really happy.
mm, mm,
Um, meditation, and meditation is in a way just the aware. Even in Buddhist masters, will talk of awareness of awareness. You know, the awareness. You might get different. Alaya, the ground of existence. For me, there's just the feeling of, you know, when you get into awareness, you call it consciousness, but not just consciousness of other, consciousness of consciousness, awareness of awareness. You know, that creates more space. So that lets all this other stuff percolate, resulting in the sixth parameter, wisdom. But you need patience. You need to let it percolate. You need to, you know, so it's not, we're not robots. It's not a linear course we're working, you
Absolutely,
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Brilliant, John. We could probably call it a day there.
Yeah. Tuned in. You know, you got my WhatsApp. You can let me know and we'll get you down there.
Yeah. Magnificent. All right, John.
Nice.
That sounds really good. Nice one, mate.
Nice one, Giles. Thanks, mate.